Hello, and welcome to Beyond IT, How Banks Are Embracing Holistic Business Resiliency, a Finextra webcast with IBM. And joining me today is Sharon Wallace, who is MBCI Resilience Team Risk and Financial Stability at the FSA. Next to her is Stuart Dunsmore, who is Director, Global Head of Business Continuity and Physical Security at Commerce Bank. And next to him is Chris McBrain, who's IBM Business Continuity and Resiliency Services Executive at IBM UK and Ireland. So we're going to have an interesting discussion today, and I had a pretty good time putting together the questions for this. We're going to talk about things like cyber-terrorism and physical events like the Occupy movement, and also more sort of run-of-the-mill everyday business resiliency issues like vendor consolidation and M&A. But one of the things I wanted to start off with talking about, because we're here in London recording this, and I wanted to sort of frame a lot of the discussions around the market-wide exercise that the FSA put on last year in preparation for the Olympics, which is coming in just a few weeks. So, I mean, I'm going to start off with you, Sharon, on the first question. You know, I read through the FSA's report of the market-wide exercise, which happened in November last year.
That's right. Yeah.
And a lot of banks in the city took part in the exercise. And one of the major concerns that came up from the report was payment disruption and, of course, remote working during the Olympics. Should those have been the top priorities that came out of the report, or what else should banks be looking at?
Well, the payments disruption was a key focus during the market-wide exercise, and this was the result of a wide-scale cyber attack, which impacted both wholesale and retail payments. And the exercise highlighted the need for a greater awareness and understanding of the contingencies available outside of those directly involved in the payment systems. And it also highlighted a need for greater communications between the settlement banks and their clients, the indirect banks. And this has been followed up by the authorities and by the sector. But if we're looking at the priority for this summer, clearly for banks and for all businesses, that will be the Olympics. And for the market-wide exercise, we chose the 3rd of August as the scenario date, which is expected to be one of the busiest days of the Olympics. And this gave the participant firms a chance to test their Olympic plans for dealing with severe travel disruption and high staff absence. And one of the outcomes from the exercise, what it did highlight was that although home working is a very necessary and a very useful means of remote working, when it's the only means of, that the companies use, then it can make for organisations vulnerable, and they need to think about alternatives such as changing staff working patterns, travel arrangements, and looking at to use other business locations. And on the 8th and the 9th of May, businesses from across the city in Canary Wharf were able to take part in a Olympic stress test over 2 days, which was organised by Canary Wharf Group and Deloitte, and which the FSA supported. And over 100 businesses took part in the exercise and completed an online survey of their experience. And the results were very encouraging. Over 80% of the businesses said that they were confident that they'd be able to minimise any disruption during the games to their business. But nonetheless, there were still some issues experienced by companies, like, for instance, where staff tried home working for the first time, they had some difficulties. Others also thought that remoting journeys, such as using the bus instead of the train, that also had some issues and wasn't particularly effective. But it's good in the sense that it shows companies learned something from the exercise, and that there is time for them to make changes to their plans before the start of the games.
So it wasn't so much the technical concerns, but almost sort of the way people behave and cultural concerns.
Yeah, and I think it's for a large number of staff who perhaps don't use home working on a regular basis, for them it was a chance to test it for the first time. Certainly, yeah. And I was also going to mention that a priority didn't come out of the market-wide exercise, but something that's coming out of the discussions we're having with banks is a priority is also going to be the Eurozone situation. And